The perfectionist inside of me really hopes that the microphone isn't picking up the rain outside, but there's another part of me that's like, it's so soothing. The thunder, the rain, it's so good. I want to open this up with a quick scripted blurb, just for the sake of efficiency, and then we'll go from there. Every time I get a new camera, I put it through rigorous testing. I want to know everything I can about it so I can operate it to its maximum potential within my use case. I wanted to film myself getting to know the Canon Powershot V1 because I think the process I go through, while not exhaustive, should have some value to you, presumably a potential buyer. Professional camera reviewers can certainly give you a useful high-level preview of what to expect, but I typically find the standard format most reviewers follow to be lacking in detail. The reasoning behind that is typically down to money. Reviewing cameras is their job. They have to cover many cameras and therefore they don't allocate enough time per camera to find subtle idiosyncrasies. For example, I heard nobody go into detail about how some chargers can result in the Canon Powershot V1 taking 4 hours to charge, or how the Wi-Fi radio that that Canon used in the V1 is straight out of 2007 and has very real negative impacts to usability. Other consideration camera reviewers have to make is that they're not just talking to prospective buyers, but they're also creating entertainment for casual window shoppers. This consideration means videos have to be short, concise, punchy, processed, and polished. The cost of operating through that filter is often a formulaic approach that rarely extends past reading the spec sheet, a couple marketing talking points, and basic testing. The reward for this workflow is more money. This video took over a week to complete. It's a journey of organic discovery, and even though it's 2 hours long, there are still tests and scenarios I didn't cover. At the end of the day, this isn't my job. I'm not getting paid to do this. I probably put way too much effort in it already. Last thing worth mentioning is if you open up the description of the video, you should see a list of all of the timestamps so you can kind of skip around if that's something you want to do, or go back later on, or if YouTube's working properly, you should see all the chapters filled out. So that being said, let's unbox a camera. There are very few things that excite me the same way New Camera Day does. Let's see what we got. Anything of note on the outside of the box? No, not really. The grand unveiling is always anticlimactic with cameras because usually they put the paperwork on top. Quite nicely packed. I assume this is our mic muff. Le pièce de résistance. No idea what that could be. This must be the battery. Anything else? Nope. Nothing in there. In package number 1, we get the strap. I can go right back in the little package there. In package number 2, this feels like the wind muff. Get the damn thing. There we go. Yep, wind muff. And a battery. No USB cable? Seriously? They just assume that you have a cable? I mean, it's USB-C. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, shit, that's just less USB cables I end up throwing away. But yeah, there just does not appear that this comes with any kind of charger. Ha! Isn't that interesting? I think that's the Halo theme song. This feels really good in the hand. It's lighter than I anticipated it being. I knew it was going to be thick, but I anticipated it being a little bit less substantial feeling in the hand. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just a little bigger than I expected. There's something entertaining about powering a Canon camera with a Panasonic battery. SD card. Need an SD card. This soft touch rubber that's all around the outside of it, by the way, it's the same type of material covering the ports on the side. That's a really inconvenient spot to put the ports. I don't like that. It's all, anyhow, the soft touch material's all the way around the camera, and it's really grippy. Like, that is actually, like, very noteworthy. How I guess what I'm saying is it feels very unlikely that I'm gonna drop this. The power button's up here on the top. Now, I don't have particularly small hands. I have, I would say slightly above average size hands. I'm almost kind of struggling to touch the power button. So maybe if you have tiny hands, that could be a problem. I actually kind of like that it's out of the way. Fires up relatively quickly. Now it's time to set it up. Looks like they're pushing the smartphone app. Can't get through the setup without acknowledging that it exists. I will do that later. Oh, the battery's dead. Mildly concerning. If these things sit on a shelf and the battery...
If a lithium-ion battery stays at a low charge for too long, it can lose capacity and potentially become unstable. the voltage might drop too low, causing irreversible damage and making it difficult or impossible to recharge.
They should probably ship these with a little bit of juice in them. And check this out. They ship it in video mode. I think they're trying to tell you something. This is definitely video-centric. I'm going to have to charge this before I get into it. It's kind of a bummer. But when I was looking online on the Canon website, looking at the manual for this, trying to familiarize myself beforehand, I noticed there was a setting where you could apparently change the charge rate. I'm going to look for that real quick. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing the settings, so I'm going to have to revisit the menu, try to figure out what the hell what I seen that made me think that. USA.canon.com, Powershot V1 specification page, recharge performance, 3 levels. Does that not sound like there are 3 levels of charging speed? Whew! Man, the autofocus in photo mode is insane! That Canon dual pixel. That is just insanely fast. Don't worry, we'll get to the autofocus testing. This lens is so wide! Wow! When they said 16 equivalent, they meant it. Oh! I gotta charge the battery, and then we gotta get into the testing. I'm getting excited. I've heard a few people say that this has PD, but a lot of people just don't know what PD is. I'm looking for, like, voltage, like, specs, you know, USB specs. There just doesn't seem to be any anywhere on the camera. Luckily, I do have a little, you know, USB multimeter, so we're gonna find out what kind of voltage this thing runs at. Yeah, that doesn't look like PD to me. That's only 5 volts. That's just standard USB. Here's a different charger. 5 volts. Got a little battery bank right here. 5 volts again. It doesn't really seem like fast charging is going to be a thing. So apparently they don't put manuals in the box anymore? I had to go online to find it. That's fine though, because I got some information. According to the user manual, USB PD not supported. If I scroll down just a little bit, approximate charge time, 2 hours. And that's the in-camera charging time. And that's why you can't trust everything camera reviewers say. Because I swear, like half of them were saying, yeah, it's USB PD. Okay, maybe not half, but there was a few prominent ones who were saying it's USB PD, or USB-C PD. It's not. The manual says it's not, and my multimeter is saying that it's only 5 volts. It's not PD. Guess I'll see you in 2 hours when this thing's charged. That sucks. It's about an hour later. Camera didn't fully charge, as expected, but we're going to get going on the testing. First things first, I want to give you a little perspective. I'm not a camera reviewer, I'm not a professional, I'm just a camera enthusiast who enjoys tinkering around with new technology. I've been on a bit of a mission to find the ultimate companion to my phone. You know, I'm not making money with my cameras, I just like cameras. I've got a list of things here, 22 items I think. These are all different categories that I want to test. There's no such thing as the perfect camera, but when I saw the Powershot V1 for the first time, I was like, my God, this is as close to perfect as I think I'm going to get. So I was stoked to buy it. First thing I want to cover is the sensor. Now, it's called a 1.4-inch sensor. Some reviewers are calling this a slightly larger than Micro Four Thirds sensor. Some people are calling it a slightly smaller than Micro Four Thirds sensor. What does that actually mean? Who's telling the truth? I'm going to go get the actual specifications, and then I'm going to use visual aids. Here is the relative size of a Micro Four Thirds sensor against the sensor that's in the V1. According to Canon, it's 18.4 millimeters by 12.3 millimeters. And according to Wikipedia, a Micro Four Thirds sensor is 18 by 13.5. It's worth noting that I'm using Wikipedia's numbers here, but there seems to be some conflicting information on what exactly a Micro Four Thirds sensor dimensions are. It seems like it could vary from manufacturer to manufacturer. But either way, this is a fairly decent representation, relatively speaking. Now I've went ahead and shaded it in. So the green part is a 16 by 9 aspect ratio cut out of the sensor. So effectively, when you're shooting video on these two sensors, this portion of red is getting cut out of a Micro Four Thirds, this portion of red is getting cut out of the V1. And for whatever reason, you're not sure why I'm taking a 16 by 9 cut out of that, that's the aspect ratio of this video. So it's 16 units wide by 9 units tall. And when we do the math on that, we get 182, thereabouts, square millimeters of total usable surface area when shooting video on a Micro Four Thirds sensor. And we get 190-ish square millimeters on the V1. So the V1 is, technically speaking, based off of the math that I got from Wikipedia, slightly bigger than a Micro micro four thirds sensor, it's also worth taking into account that the aspect ratio of the sensor is different. You're talking 4:3, unrelated to the name of the sensor, although some people will have you believe that it is. The V1 is a 3:2. So technically speaking, it's not a micro four thirds sensor, but it's close enough, so basically I'm going to refer to the V1 as a micro four thirds camera. You're talking about an effective variance of like 5% here. And in the grand scheme of things, that's negligible. It's a micro four thirds camera. Cool. Over the years, I've played with all types of cameras with various different sensor sizes. I can confidently say that my preference is between 1 inch and APS-C. Micro four thirds being dead center, I'm perfectly happy with that. Not to mention, you don't get the same depth of field that you do with, say, larger full-frame sensor here. You don't get the same ability to gather light, but on the flip side of that, the camera doesn't have to work as hard to keep you in focus, and I would rather have the camera not trying to find focus. I like nice, deep depths of field. I can't stand it when you see people who upgrade to the latest and greatest high-end full-frame camera and their plane of focus is like 3 inches, and like the front of their face is in focus. You know what I'm talking about. The front of their face is in focus, but their ears are out of focus. It's like, congratulations, you just spent a bunch of money and you made your shit look worse. This is my cup of tea. Everything's in focus. There's a slight background blur for subject separation and background separation, but you can still see what's going on behind me. I don't want it to be blown out. I find that distracting. Another thing I discovered in the last few years, I actually have a preference for resolution. I like somewhere between 20 and 30 megapixels. Any more than 30, and the files just, yeah, you got a lot of cropping room, but I don't crop. So you get these massive files, especially if you're shooting RAWs, which thankfully I don't do that too often. I don't really like the image editing process. You just get a bunch of unnecessarily large photos and files, and I don't like that. So 20 plus megapixels, plenty sharp, but the file size is still reasonable. And I think this is like 22, so we're already checking a whole bunch of boxes. Moving on from sensor stuff, I want to talk about deployment speed, and I want to give you an example of what I'm talking about here based on the Lumix S9. This is a fantastic camera despite constantly being shit on by reviewers. It does take a little bit of time to turn on, but that's kind of par for the course with these larger, interchangeable camera systems. I'm not just picking on the S9. If I want to take a photo with this camera, I have to turn it on, I have to get the screen out, I have to deploy the lens, I have to take the cover off, I have to pick my mode if I want to be in shutter priority. Oh, I actually want the screen out like this. Okay, let's make sure my shutter speed is right where I want it, and then I could take a photo. And then if I want to change back to video, it's not too bad. I could just go back to my custom mode and I'm pretty much there, but that's a lot of steps. I don't like there to be a lot of steps. Not to mention, you gotta damn lens cover just floating around now that I gotta worry about losing. As far as the V1 goes, I mean, yeah, there's some similar faffing about, right? You got the flippy screen that you have to determine where you're gonna stick it, but once you do that, for me, I pretty much just turn it on, the camera's deployed, the screen is on, it's ready to take a photo, and if I want to take a video or switch back and forth, it's got this conveniently placed switch, and look at how fast the screen changes. It's just, it's on demand, it's on the fly, it's super quick. The camera is not going to be a holdup when trying to deploy this thing. It's quick, and I often find myself in shutter priority, so I can pretty much just leave it there in both modes, and it's fine. This thing is quick. If we're being realistic here, that was a given for this category. This was more of a make sure it doesn't fail than make sure it passes type of scenario. It's a point and shoot. That's kind of what they're known for. They're known for being fast, quick, convenient, and it doesn't fail at that, and that's important. Now let's talk about ND filters. I can't stand thread-on filters. Been down that road, had a nice catalog of filters, got rid of them all. Too much faffing about. If you're thinking about filters, that's time that's time that could have been spent thinking about composition. That's time that could have been spent thinking about what you were filming. It's just, I don't like faffing about with filters. I gotta have built-in NDs. And they also have to be strong enough that I can go outside in the middle of a sunny day and not have to, decrease my shutter speed. I like to shoot at roughly 1/100. Well, I mean, it depends on the frame rate, right? But I like to shoot in shutter priority, or whatever it's called in video mode or whatever, but you know what I'm talking about. I like to set my shutter speed and I don't like to touch it. I like my motion blur to be consistent. So we're inside right now. This has auto. I'm gonna go outside and let's see what happens. All right, so here I am, out touching some grass. Looks like we're 1/100. The lens is wide open at f2.8, and we're at ISO 125. I didn't change any ND settings. I just set it to auto. Haven't touched it since the last clip. Safe to say they engaged. They get a thumbs up. That's an approval. Looks like the sky's blown out, maybe. Micro Four Thirds, you know what I mean? You don't get the same dynamic range, but it looks pretty good. We can knock out a couple quick ones here on the list. It needs to have a mechanical shutter, and if you look right in there real carefully, you can see that sucker actuate. Another thing that it has to have is it's got to have a flip-out screen. If it doesn't have a screen that faces forward, it's just no good for me. Those two are a pretty simple just pass or fail, so we could just move on from those. It's got them. They work. It's awesome. What kind of mechanical shutter? If you're buying a V1, chances are you don't really care, so it's not worth going into the technical details. So the next thing on the list is water sealing. One of the things that I was kind of concerned about were these vent holes right here. Now, I just took a flashlight and I lost my flashlight for a second. I took my flashlight and I had a look down inside these holes, and it seems like the airflow chamber is sort of separated off from the rest of the camera. Now, it's hard to tell without actually, disassembling the unit, but it's safe to say it's not weather sealed. If you open up the battery door, like there's no rubber gaskets around the inside of it. If you look at the ports, it's probably fine. I mean, it's definitely not weather sealed, but if you get some sprinkles on the camera, it's probably not the end of the world, but if you get some sprinkles on this barrel and then it retracts inside, you're going to end up with moisture inside of the camera as it starts to evaporate. So you're definitely going to want to avoid taking this outside, which is a massive ding against the camera in my book, and that gives it a fail, but it's probably fine. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's designed in such a way that it's just going to immediately die if you get a couple sprinkles on it. It seems like it's just sort of standard procedure. You get a couple sprinkles on your camera, you turn it on, you pull the battery out. This way it doesn't retract in on itself, and you just sort of open everything up and you let it sit for a few hours and it'll probably be fine. And now, a very important performance metric for me, low light performance. Now, we've switched over to 4K for the first time in the video. Have you noticed that everything's been 1080p up to this point? Some of you that have been around cameras for quite a while probably did notice. But everybody else? Did you really notice that this is the first 4K clip in the video? We're like, what, 12, 13 minutes in at this point? I'm not sure. 10 plus, for sure. This is the first 4K clip. I just feel it necessary to test low light performance in 4K just so you can gauge actual sharpness. Also, I feel it necessary to gauge low light on a fixed mount, because when you start moving things around, YouTube compresses things too much and you lose that static sharpness. Enough rambling. Right now, we're at ISO 1600. We're at 30 FPS because if I go to 60, it'll bump the ISO up another stop. So instead of 1600, it'd be 3200. So we've probably been around that 3200 to 4000 for all of the low light shooting, and it's performed really good so far. This is actually, I'm not seeing a lot of chroma noise. I'm not seeing a lot of luminoise, but let's start pushing it. Oh, look at that! That has to be 12,800. That is definitely 12,800. Oh, that looks so good on the screen. Oh, wow. I can't wait to get this on the computer and look at this. I was kind of hoping to step it a little more, but we kind of went right for it. The colors still look decent on the screen. I gotta review this real quick. That almost looks too good on the little screen. I just reviewed the footage. Wow. This thing performs so much better than I anticipated. Sure, there's chroma noise in some of the darks, and especially on the flat colors, and you can see some luminoise kind of softening things up. But the colors, mostly intact. The roll-off, not super harsh. It's pretty damn dark in here right now. Here's the front-facing camera on my iPhone, which normally performs fairly good, all things considered, in low light. Here is the same scene using the ultra-wide camera on the iPhone, and then here is the primary shooter. This is as good as you're going to get on the iPhone, and it is still noticeably worse than what I'm getting on the V1. I want to push it further now, but I'm not sure how far I can push it. I've gone to full manual now. The lens is wide open, the shutter speed is 1/30, the ISO 25,600. That's the max we can do. And with just the laptop illuminating this, and just this little sliver in my little shutter there, and a little bit of light right here, you can still see some stuff in here. The autofocus just breathed a little bit, but not much. There's another breathe. Oh, it's struggling just a little bit. But amazingly, you can still see what's going on in here. And it doesn't seem to be completely consumed with chroma noise. Although I'm not sure this is totally usable because of the slight focus breathing. It does still seem to be autofocusing fairly reliably, though. Let me turn on the flashlight on my phone. That's not even that much light. Wow! How freaking cool is that? I can't believe it's actually picking up my eye right now. This is fantastic. I remember back in the day when you try to turn the lights down a little bit and you tried to film, man, it was a chroma noise disaster. This doesn't look fantastic, but the fact that you can even see me at all is just a testament to how far we've come with technology. This is incredible. We're going to wrap up the low light with some photo analysis. So we're starting out at ISO 100. You can see here in the blacks, perfectly clean. You can see where my focus point was. Perfectly sharp, absolutely no trouble there. Moving on to ISO 200, again, perfectly sharp, decent enough colors. No RGB blotching from the chroma noise, looking good. This is ISO 400. Once again, perfectly sharp. Blacks are looking perfectly fine. Let's go ahead and jump up again. I'm pretty sure this is ISO 800, but I just want to make sure. Yes, that is, in fact, ISO 800. And, yeah, still looks good. Still has good color, although you can start to see a little bit of luminoise here in the reds. And if we go over here to the blacks, it's slightly out of focus, so you can't really see anything, but there's a certain amount of texture there caused by the luminoise. And ISO 1600, you can see that there's just a little bit more noise here in the reds. You can start to see here in the, what is that, like a light tannish brown. You can see there's a bit more texture there. The black's got, decent amount of texture there. This is ISO 3200, I believe. Just want to make sure I'm telling you the right thing. Yep, ISO 3200. Again, just slightly more luminoise. I'm not seeing a lot of chroma noise, especially here in the blacks. Like, I'm really looking for RGB blotching. You can see if you really zoom in on there, you can see some RGB blotching from the chroma noise. But it's when you zoom out, it's not a problem. You really got to nitpick to see the chroma noise. Now, this should be ISO 6400, and this is where it starts to go downhill pretty quickly. Because the first things that really stood out to my eye are you can start to see some chroma noise here in the cup. That immediately stuck out. It looks like it's slightly more blotchy now. You're really losing some sharpness in the text right here. You can start to see some blotching in the back. All of these blacks right here are starting to get a bit colorful. That's no good. And you can really see some texture and loss of sharpness back here on the water bottle. And the shadow back here. It started getting really muddy, that green really textured, and then it's just all downhill from there. In fact, it looks like the whole image may have lost some dynamic range, which I know is something that technically happens, so perhaps I'm sort of imagining it, but you can really see a loss of clarity here. You definitely start to see a bunch of greens along that light strip that's going vertical right there. Still kind of sharp. It's not super sharp, but you can still see what's going on here. And in these reds, there really isn't a lot of chroma noise, which is good to see, but you really don't want to shoot at this kind of ISO unless you have to. And then here, I'm pretty sure this is 32,000, I believe. Yeah, this is 32,000. This is the absolute highest ISO that it can do. And you could still see what's going on here, right? I mean, if you needed to shoot at this ISO, you could. but you're losing so much detail right here. But even though the lens isn't that fast, I feel like you'd probably rarely ever need to go this high anyhow. So at the end of the day, does the V1 produce super immaculate, spectacularly clean images? No. No, it doesn't. But they're pretty damn good, and I would say it definitely passes the low light test, at least to my eye. It's well past my expectations. And considering the sensor size, it's a definite thumbs up. 100%, without a doubt, passes low light, in my opinion. This should be a relatively quick section. I'm calling it versatile mounting and placement. What I mean by that is it's easy to mount on stuff, and it's easy to place, where you want it to be placed. I should be able to take my camera and stick it places and it just stays. And for the most part, I can do that relatively easily with the V1. Remember how I said earlier in the video how it feels very substantial in the hand? Well, that's because it's got a very girthy bottom. And that makes it good for putting down on stuff. It's very stable. It doesn't rock back and forth. And the lens, it doesn't protrude out very much, causing it to be kind of off balance. It's very stable when you set it down. I can basically just throw you wherever I want. Now you're on my coffee pot. It's worth mentioning it also has a 1/4-20, so if I wanted to, I could just leave mounts everywhere. That's probably horrible sounding. But yeah, and then I could just screw you down into places. What the hell are you testing? This doesn't make any sense. The problem stems from larger cameras. See, when I set this camera down, it sits flush. But when I deploy the lens, now all of a sudden, it doesn't sit flush. So, some cameras, especially mirrorless, make it so you pretty much have to mount it on some kind of 1/4-20 tripod because you can't, you know what I mean? I've got the body of the camera sitting on the cap of the jug here. It's going to fall. If I take the V1 and I put it there on the jug, it's not going to fall because it's better balanced. You'd be shocked at how much you run into situations like this, especially when you're trying to be spontaneous. So the V1's pretty well balanced. It's got a nice girthy bottom. It's got a 1/4-20, but that's a big knock against it, and let me show you why. Just look at this 1/4-20 placement. It is literally as close to that battery door as they could possibly stick it, which means even if you use a really small base, it's going to block the battery door. Meaning if you do put it on some kind of a tripod or mount, and you need to get the SD card out, or I don't know, you need to change the battery that doesn't quick charge apparently, you gotta take it off the mount, and that becomes a nuisance. It's so well balanced and the bottom's so girthy that I'm actually able to balance it on a tree limb. I haven't owned many cameras that could do that. It's just a very well balanced and put together, well proportioned package. But that 1/4-20 is definitely a problem. It's also worth pointing out, this isn't a very heavy camera. It's roughly 424 grams. You compare that to what's considered a compact full frame with what is also regarded as a very compact zoom. Yeah, that's a pretty substantial weight difference, and you can feel it. I'm not saying it's as light as something like a GM1 with a prime on it or something like that. I mean, that's kind of absurdly light, but it's also closer. I'm pretty sure that's closer in weight to the GM1 than it is the full-size full frame. So does it pass or does it fail? Versatile mounting and placement. This one isn't a slam dunk, but I am going to give it a pass just because of how well balanced and just kind of, relatively speaking, it's got good ratios and proportions. Just like physically, it's a pretty decent camera. I'm a fan of the shape of its body. Now let's do some autofocus testing. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this section because it's Canon. It's dual pixel. It's going to be good. I have spot focus set right here in the center of the frame. So we're just gonna, focus on this tree right here, and then we're gonna focus on the background. Focus on the tree right here, focus on the background. Now, let's give it a little bit of zoomage, and it's gonna take a second because that's just what it does. All right, so tree, background, tree, background, tree, background. It's not the quickest thing in the world, but it seems to be silent, and it seems to be smooth and accurate. Close up. Far away. Close up. Far away. Close up. Far away. Close up. There we go. Not as snappy as I would anticipate. All right, how about walking towards the subject? It seems to be pretty good. Not the worst thing in the world. Although this is best case scenario because there's a lot of sharp edges and contrast here. I know. It's phase detect, it's not contrast based. And just for the sake of completeness, we'll do a few tests inside with slightly lower light. It kind of delays for a sec. Oh, it delayed. That was my fault. I accidentally hit something on the screen. Once it goes, though, it goes. And it's super accurate once it does. Now let's make it struggle. It's not bad. It's not the best. I mean, I'm pretty sure Sony's got some stuff that does a little bit better than this, but with how dark it is in here, that's pretty good. Check out this weird problem I'm having. So I turn it on, it powers on, fine, no problem. You can see the battery is about half full, right? So let's go ahead and plug the battery in. This one's been moved to a non-PD charger, so it should just be a straight 5 volts. Nothing happens. The battery indicator gives me no indication that there's power being supplied to the camera. Okay, well, that's weird. Maybe it's just running the camera. Let's go ahead and turn it off, right? I mean, that light should turn on. It should turn on, right? It should go orange and tell me that the camera's charging. What's going on here? Well, let's plug this one in. This is a different one. This is actually a PD charger. Not that that matters, as we learned. But either way, plug it in. Doing it one-handed. What's going on now? Nothing. Okay, let's go ahead and turn it on this time. The battery symbol is doing something. It's gray now. Okay, well, that's kind of bizarre. If I plug my USB-C multimeter into the non-PD charger, you can clearly see that we're getting 5 volts. We're now plugged into the camera, and the camera is pulling 0 power. There's no indication, just as before. Now we're plugged into the PD charger. You can see that there's no power. That's because PD has to do a handshake first. Plug this in. There's the initial power up signaling. There's the handshake. And 5 volts, 5 volts. But this time, we're doing 2.5 watts at 0.5 amp. Well, that's weird. Are we charging? No, the battery's still gray, but it's not full this time. What happens if we turn it off? Is it going to charge this time? No light. Well, that's weird. Oh, look at that. The power is going down. So it seems like it's just running the camera. It's like the charging circuitry just shit the bed or something. It's running the camera. Look at this. If I run the zoom lens, you'll see the wattage go up, right? See 2.8, 3.2, and if I hit record on the camera, which now we're recording, and I run the zoom lens back and forth now you can see we're cresting over 4 watts. And if I stop moving it and I hit the record button again, we're going to go down to about 2.5 again. So the camera is now being powered off of this charger at 5 volts, but will not charge off of this one at 5 volts, and neither one of these will charge the battery now, even though the camera is capable of recognizing a power source, because it's pulling power right now, presumably running the camera. What the hell? Well, it's charging again. I let the camera sit with the battery out for about 5 minutes and then plugged it back in and it worked. Let's try the other cable. That one's charging too. And it's charging at, let's see here, not quite the same speed, oddly enough. So I have it plugged in to another charger on the other end. Same result. Those chargers are capable of just about 2 amps. But a PD charger will run at 6 watts. So it's like the camera wants a PD charger, but doesn't actually run at voltage and current levels where PD is needed? God, that is so weird. And then you turn the camera on, and the power goes down. So it's not charging while it's on. This is so weird. Anyhow, back to the autofocus testing. Let's do some photos. I have it in small zone autofocus right now, and I have some, I forget which setting I flipped, but basically it allows me to half press the shutter, it goes blue, and then it tracks whatever I selected. That is so incredibly useful. But anyhow, You don't care about that. Let's do some autofocus testing, all right? This is what blew my mind earlier when I was starting the video. Look at how quick... I'm kind of at the closer end of what this lens can do, like focus-wise, but look at how fast, you know what I mean? It's like, look at that background blur right quick, and then bam, it's just gone. It almost looks like the video's glitching, like I'm removing frames, but I'm not. This is all in real time. It's just... It's insanely quick, even in low light. Look at that. That's incredible. I'm going to lock onto the end of this orange tip right here, and I'm going to move the camera in and out a little bit, and we're going to see if it can hold focus. This will kind of simulate a moving target. All right, let's review those. It's kind of hard to tell on my screen because it's kind of small, but that looks like it's probably a hit. Yeah, this one might be a little soft. Hit. That's a little soft. So it's not perfect. It's pretty damn good, though. Let's do another one on this gas canister right here. It's got a bunch of sharp text. Should help lock on. All right, so locked on and fire away. Yeah, you can see where it lost focus, but before it did, I mean, that's not bad. All things considered. Just off that test right there, I can say confidently, this is the best autofocusing camera I've had, probably in the last 2 years. I've had a lot of cameras in the last 2 years. This thing just blew my mind away. And this feature right here, where you don't have to tap, you can just, drop the thing on and half press the shutter and it just kind of locks on. That is insanely useful. Without a doubt, it passes autofocus. It is now 4 days later, and I think I have almost 40 passive hours of testing. This has consumed my life. I have literally been living my life around testing this camera for the last 4 days. Fair warning, pretty much all I'm going to do for the next little bit is stare at a whiteboard. It's going to be boring. I know what to do. I can do several jump cuts in quick succession to hopefully give you enough dopamine fuel to fuel your attention span for the boring bit. Are you ready? I'm facing this way. Now I'm facing this way. I'm outside. And now I'm in my camper, sitting on the toilet. And now on to the testing. If you're recording using USB power, does it also charge the battery at the same time? The answer is unfortunately no. Runtime testing. This was all of this was done with the temperature shutoff set to high, and the fan was set to auto. So starting out with 1080p 30, light bitrate, about 2 hours. That's a pretty damn good result. And then I tried the step-up bitrate of standard. It's about 2 hours as well. Switched over to 1080p 60. Again, for both bitrate settings, we were getting basically the same result at about an hour and a half. And then 4K 30, the time just started dropping off precipitously. You'll notice that I have heat here in orange letters. This is because it was pretty noticeably warm, and it was the little gauge that kind of expands and whatever. The camera was indicating to me that it was starting to get pretty warm. That's not a problem I had with 1080 30. 1080 60, we're just over an hour. I would deem anything over an hour acceptable, but no more than that. It's also worth pointing out that I have heat in red text right here. That is because I was actively fighting this to keep it from overheating. Would it have overheated? I'm not entirely sure. I just wanted to make sure it didn't, so I was providing it some additional active external cooling. Either way, though, that's the best you can get at 4K 60. That's the best you can do at 4K 30, 1080 60, 1080 30. The battery life, honestly, about what I expected here. This, more than I expected, so pleasantly surprised. Equally as important as runtime, we have how long it takes the camera to actually charge the battery. The first test, 112 minutes, that was a PD charger. The second test, 108 minutes, also a PD charger. This is where it starts to get interesting. The third test was a quick charger. It was like a quick charger, fast charger. I'll explain in a minute. Either way, 236 minutes. That's just absurd. So that kind of explains why earlier we only saw one of the chargers giving it about 2 or 3 watts max, and it wouldn't actually run the camera. This charger, the fourth test, 105 minutes, this was a 5-volt charger capable of putting out 3 amps or so. It took 105 minutes. It was a dumb charger. There was no fancy circuitry. So clearly it doesn't need PD like I thought earlier, but it also can't have the quick charge. This lens is so wide. It's almost kind of a weird look. Okay, what the hell is quick charge slash fast charge? Well, it was a standard that was kind of a standard, but it was a non-standard standard, if that makes sense. So you have USB as a whole. USB is a standard, but it got to the point where people wanted to charge their USB-powered devices faster than the USB standard would allow. So companies come along and they sort of tacked on a standard to the USB standard that allowed for variable voltage, and that is why the result went all crazy. Because that standard is not really a standard, if that makes sense. It's kind of confusing. Either way, the bottom line, there are certain chargers that if you're plugging in via a USB Type A cable, you might have to wait 4 hours to charge the camera. So pay attention to that. If you plug a charger into the V1 and it doesn't give you the gray battery, you need to use a different charger or you're going to have a really fucking bad time. Now, all that being said, the charge time on the V1 is crap. Complete crap. Utter crap. It's dog shit. It's bad. And to prove that, I ended up testing it against the DJI Action 5. Let me show you those test results. And here the results are. So the dumb 5-volt charger that it took 105 minutes to charge the V1 charged the Action 5 in 51 minutes. Substantially shorter time. And then that same charger that took 4 hours to charge the V1 took 42 minutes. And then the PD charger that was taking about 2 hours to charge the V1 also did in 42 minutes. So you can see, these are two different standard chargers, but because the Action 5 supports both the standard and the non-standard standard charging, the results were effectively the same. Now I want to explain why I chose to compare the charging speed of the V1 against the DJI Action 5. To some of you, that might seem like apples to oranges. You're comparing an action cam that's $350 or $400 or whatever it is against a premium point and shoot that's like $900 plus tax and shipping. The category of camera doesn't matter. What matters is the size of the battery. So, in terms of energy storage, right, energy density within the battery of these two, they're extremely simple. This is a 7.7 watt-hour battery. This is a 7.4 watt-hour battery. I don't know where I got those numbers. I was wrong. The Action 5 is 7.55 watt-hours, and the Canon battery is also 7.5 watt-hours. They're the same. Now, I am oversimplifying slightly here, but basically they are the same in terms of battery size. So it's a pretty fair comparison. I just wanted to point out how absurd it is that this very premium point-and-shoot camera that costs like several of these charges way longer than this, even though it has basically the same battery. This also supports all of the charging standards, including the non-standard standards. It's like, this is like $350 or $400, and this is like well over double the price, and it takes longer to I can't keep repeating that. I misspoke. I can't keep overstating that. It's absurd! Like, this represents what is possible with current-day technology, and clearly it can be done economically. But we get 2 hours to recharge? And when when you have power connected to the camera, it doesn't even recharge the battery. That's fucking absurd. It's completely fucking absurd. I'm sitting down editing this, and all I can think in my head is some smartass is going to go in the comments section and write a multi-paragraph rant about nominal C-rate and cell degradation and pack configuration. It's just like, you can't win. You just fucking can't. I am going to continue to rant about this over and over again, and it still won't feel like enough. So, let's just move on. Just know that I'm not happy about the charging speed. It really feels like more than just a slap in the face. It feels less like a slap in the face and more like Canon sucker punched you and then pissed on your unconscious body. Not supporting PD in 2025 just feels disrespectful at this... I gotta stop. Alright, we're gonna move on. Yes. Grass. I feel so much better now. And now on to something extremely exciting. We're going to talk about overheating. Yeah, so exciting. All right. USB power, that's how all these were ran. The fan was on auto. The overheat temperature was set to high. 1080p, 60, USB power, 5.5 hours. And there's a red asterisk. We're already off to a great start. Here's the cut-in. The test duration was 5 hours and 27 minutes. Now I want to zoom in and show you this screen, but I have to warn you, it's going to kind of look like ass because the minimum focus distance on the Action 5 is a little bit further out than I had it here, so it's not going to look super great, and I could screen record, but I don't really want to. So we're chooching along right here, and then eventually we get to a point which is coming up right here. You can see there was flashing here and here, and the timer completely stopped. The camera hung for approximately 11 seconds, and then what happened is it just, boom, shut off. No warnings, no messages popping up on screen. That, to me, looks like a hang. Although, it's worth pointing out that you can see the lights on now. That's the charge indicator. So, it looks like whatever operating system they have crashed, and then it went into some kind of off state, but it didn't interfere with the charging. So I don't know that, honestly, I'm not even going to act like I understand how that works. The file, though, and this is what really sucks about this, the file is just a .dat file, and it says 0 bytes, so I'm sure there's a bunch of garbled data in here. This looks like a temporary file. So all of that video footage is effectively lost. I think the last camera I experienced any kind of crashing or stability issues was probably a GoPro. Man, it's been so long. Cameras have been so stable for the last few years, man. This is kind of disappointing. Because I had the Action 5 too close to the camera, which is my fault, I did a stupid. I recognize that. I don't know what happened. All I could glean from that is that it locked up. Maybe the memory card filled up. Maybe it was a system glitch. I don't know. Bottom line is, camera ran for within the realm of reason, okay? It's supposed to shut off after 6 hours. It only made it 5.5, and all the footage was gone. That's not good. I'm getting worked up again. I need to put the hat back, right? Calmer. Let's continue. The 4K 30 test was completely uneventful. It ran for the entire 6 hours. It was on the verge. It was really teetering on whether or not it was going to overheat or not. It was going all the way. It was red, it was blinking, it was angry, but it made it. By the way, all of this was done in a 70-ish, 70 to 72 degree room. I should be clear about that. I should have said that sooner, but I didn't because I suck at doing this. Anyhow, moving on. 4K 60, screen closed. I wanted to see worst case scenario here. Well, actually I wanted to see if the screen closed versus open would actually have a difference. So 4K 60, screen closed, 53 minutes, and it shut down due to overheating. So, yeah, having the screen closed makes a difference, and that makes sense because a lot of heat builds up behind the screen, because if you look at the 3D stuff on the Canon website, it's very clear there's like a processor back there or something. 4K 60 screen open, battery died at 65 minutes. Which if I back this incredibly slow zoom out, and then I flip the camera over here awkwardly, 4K 60, it basically lines up with this test. So, although I was fighting this and actively trying to keep the temperature down, it would have made it, apparently, according to that overheating test. Moving on. Next thing I wanted to find out is, does the fan actually make a difference? You know, they tout this active cooling system as being like a super good thing or whatever. Marketing BS. Either way. Fan, screen closed, here are all the settings I tested. I didn't test medium. There's a whole bunch of shit that I didn't test just because I've already spent 4 days on this. It's enough. There's a bunch of shit that I probably should have done more testing, but I just don't care after 4 days. 4K 60, fan off, there's our baseline, 26 minutes. I only tested it once because that seemed pretty damn reasonable to me. 4K 60 fan low, 21 minutes. Okay, that should have been higher than that number, and it wasn't. What the hell's going on there? I tested it again, 29 minutes. Would have expected it to be higher than that. What the hell's going on here? And then I got 26 minutes. And then I had sort of an epiphany. you'll notice there's 40 and 40 minutes right here. So if I use the same settings, what went up, and then why did it go back to? Well, it turns out, at least based off this extremely limited testing, if you're powering the camera off of USB power, which is everything I was doing here in the black, the only battery tests here were just the orange, because why would I run battery tests? Besides, I was thinking in my mind that, running the battery low, it would generate heat in the battery. No. It generates less heat pulling power from the battery than if you were just powering it off a USB. So, powered via USB, powered via USB, powered via USB, powered off battery, and powered off of USB. So, I should have done more testing on this one. Again, out of time, don't care, 4 days and all that. That's interesting. The camera is more prone to overheat when you're powering it off of USB. I think I've probably made that point clear. So moving on from there, 4K 60 fan high, we got 40 minutes, and then I just wanted to be safe, and I ran it again, so 38 minutes. Pretty reliable result here-ish, kind of for the point. It makes the point good enough, I think. Having the fan does make a difference. Is it enough of a difference to make a difference? Practically speaking, yeah, I think so if you're running 4K, but it doesn't seem like you really need it for 1080 resolutions and frame rates and all that. So 4K 60 fan auto, that actually got a lower result. Only 35 minutes versus 40 and 38 putting it on high. I'm guessing that's because it heat soaked and it didn't kick up to high in time. So in summary for this section, USB power, more heat, battery, less heat, overheats at 4K 60. Having the screen open is important to having long run times, and also having the fan on high is also very important to long run times. Does medium make a difference? I don't know. I ran out of time and I don't care anymore. The last bit of battery testing I did were just some quick KFC batteries. I call them KFC, but because I always forget the name of them, it's these ones right here. Are you gonna focus? Come on. I guess I can't get any closer than that. All right, because we're zoomed in. So if I go we'll test this. K and F Concept batteries. These are off-brand batteries. I bought 2 of them. They're like less than $20. Come on, focus. They've got USB-C charging built in. I've been running these types of batteries in all my cameras for the last couple of years. It's nice to have one in the camera and then one sitting on a charger. The runtime is about the same. We got 88 minutes on this one, 85 on the second one, and I know it's slightly off screen here, but you're gonna have to take my word for it. It's about 90 on the actual Canon one. It actually takes a little bit longer to charge at 138 and then 138. They're actually super consistent in that respect. These batteries don't charge particularly fast. That is seriously blown out. Let's drop that down. Also, another fun fact about these, I don't think the camera wants to charge them, which is kind of weird. That feels like kind of an artificial limitation, but I tried charging one of these off of the off the body, the V1, the body inside the V1. It didn't work, so that's not great. I like these batteries though, even though they take longer to charge, just because I can charge them externally and all the charging circuitry is just built right in here. It takes forever for them to charge, but I paid like $35 or something like that for 2 of them, and all the charging circuitry is inside of them. So in this type of configuration, I wouldn't really necessarily expect them to charge fast. It's like I don't like that they charge slow, but they're cheap and they're convenient. So it kind of makes up for the slow charging. You just always have one of these on a charger. It's not really that big of a deal. Or, hold on, I wasn't prepared for this. Third-party battery manufacturers are starting to create cases like this. This is for the DJI Action batteries. You just flip the little thing open and it has 3 of them in there, and it's like a charging case. It's got, well, this one doesn't have extra battery in it, but I've noticed that a lot of third parties are making camera batteries, third-party, these types of batteries, where they just have a little case and they just charge them. There are a lot of options, so that's all I'm saying. Thankfully, there's a lot of options for charging. Last box to talk about is bitrate. I went ahead and made a little chart here of what the bitrate is at all the resolutions and frame rates and all that sort of stuff. So one thing I want to point out right off the bat to make this go a little quicker is you'll notice this number's the same as this one, and this is the same as here. This is, so forth, going down. So 24 FPS and 30 FPS have the same bitrate. So we're just going to ignore the 20 FPS because it's equal to here. You could just, pause and skip forward if you want. Either way, 1080p Lite is 13 megabits per second at 30 FPS. That is super low. I'm glad on the low end they really committed and they went low. I did some testing. It actually doesn't look too bad. You can see some artifacting, but it's really not that bad. You go all the way up to the extreme though, 4K 30, it doesn't just quadruple it like you're quadrupling the resolution. No, it goes beyond that. We're going 122 megabits per second and then going up to the 60 here, 233 megabits per second at 4K 60 FPS. I really like that they're not skimping on the bitrate at the higher resolutions. And they give you options for long battery life and runtime down here at the lower resolutions and frame rates. We'll talk a little more about bitrate a little further on in the video when we start talking about actual resolution, and we do some testing in that regard. But for right now, looking at those numbers, I like the spread. I know. Well, is it 8-bit video or is it 10-bit video? You didn't talk about HDR. You didn't talk about the codecs. Stop. Go read the fucking spec sheet. This video's long enough. I feel as though a weight has been lifted from my shoulders now that I've gotten past that section of testing. Let's move on. Alright, let's talk about microphones for a little bit. It's a pretty breezy day today, and I've got the camera kind of tilted on an angle, so hopefully the wind will kind of catch it. Can't really tell on the levels here if it's doing anything, but this is probably worst case scenario. I'd be pretty shocked if there isn't a bunch of noise. I'll go ahead and throw this back on while we're still mid-gust. Does that make much of a difference? It'd be interesting to know if it does. I would imagine it would. This is probably the worst side for the wind to hit. Can't wait to get back to the computer and review this. The non-protected performance? Pretty good, all things considered. I mean, you could still hear what was going on. You could still hear me fairly clear. Yeah, there was wind noise, but you could hear me. And then when I threw this thing on, wow, that was underwhelming, because this did not do much. It dampened the wind noise a little bit, but maybe it was just too windy. I mean, we're seeing gusts of, on average, 10 to 15 miles an hour. Well, sustained wind of 10 to 15 miles an hour with gusts probably up into the 20s, so maybe that's just too extreme. Maybe I need to lower my expectations, but it's not great, but it's not the worst. One thing I will say in defense of this microphone, though, is it seems like it's a full spectrum sound. And what I mean by that is it's not too tinny, it's not too bassy, the mids aren't too high. It's just like everything feels pretty well balanced. I can't say the same for my experience with the Sony ZV-1 Mark II or the ZV-1F or the DJI Pocket 3 for that matter. I think this has better built-in microphones than all three of those. The Sony ZV-1 Mark II was the worst by far. It just sounded so tinny, and there was like settings that you had. There was no natural sounding setting. They just kind of all sucked. So every time I used my my ZV-1 Mark II, I had to get my Rode microphone. I think it's a Go2 Micro Pro, whatever the fuck it's called. I had to get that microphone out and constantly have external audio. This seems usable. Now, let's talk about external audio. This is currently my favorite microphone system. This is the DJI Mic Mini. It's nothing fancy. It's just a simplistic, reliable, workhorse mini microphone system. Alright, so all I did was take everything, turn it on, plug it in. Is it working? Testing. 1, 2, 3. I think I see the levels moving. Is it too hot? Is it too quiet? How is it? This is just plug in, see what we got. I've got some good news, and I've got some bad news. The good news is the automatic on-off function that this powered microphone supports, or at least the receiver supports, and a lot of external powered microphones support as well. The on-off with the camera, and I don't know what to call it. There's no like marketing term that I could like efficiently explain this with. Basically, when I hit the power button on the Canon V1, the receiver turns on. And when I hit the power button on the Canon V1 again, the receiver for this microphone turns off. That's how it should work. It's working as intended. That's good. That's a good thing. I've experienced other cameras before where it was just completely incompatible with that type of setup, and I don't know why. I don't want to explain this any further because I'm just going to butcher it. The auto on-off is working. That's good. The bad news is the automatic gain in the V1 seems to not like the external microphone because when I stop talking, this is what I get. And then when I start talking, I would imagine that's borderline blown out, probably sounds like shit, and then you can hear the auto adjust. Okay, so I have Great news. I think I've just gone into the settings. I don't think I'm clipping. I shouldn't be clipping. But if I go quiet for a second, hopefully you didn't just hear a bunch of background noise. Hopefully that noise floor didn't go like it was a minute ago. It looks like you can control the built-in microphone and the external microphone independently of one another, so you can have the auto gain on the built-in microphone, but you can also turn off the automatic gain on the external. So theoretically, this sounds not too bad. I just checked the results. Fantastic. It works great. Now, we know how it works with a powered mic, but let's see how it works with a passive mic. I've got a Rode Go Micro something or another here. Let's slap this on and see what it does. Right off the bat, it does seem to be working with the same settings as the powered mic, but it does seem to be a little quiet, or a little on the quiet side. Also, it doesn't seem to be dangling in front of the lens at all, which is a plus. Let's play with the settings a bit. I'm probably going to regret this, but I have it in auto just to see how bad it is. Yeah, the noise floor is definitely going up. Alright, I'll review it real quick. I'm not optimistic. Yeah, that went about as good as I anticipated. So I've dialed in some manual settings, just real quick and dirty. This shouldn't sound too bad, but it's pretty clear that you're going to have to just set your external microphone. You know, I don't think I've ever had a single good external auto gain experience with a camera, ever. They've always been ass. So, I don't know why I expected this to be any different. I would imagine that this honestly sounds pretty good. Luckily, it's independent from the built-in microphone, and the interface is super granular and super easy to use. I mean, this is best case scenario. You can't ask for more than that. Jumping back over to the internal microphone to wrap this section up. The microphone, the audio, the options, the settings, gets a thumbs up. If I were to say anything negative about any of the audio on this camera, is that it's not 32-bit float, unfortunately, but it doesn't really seem to be a problem, especially not if you like half-ass know what you're doing. And also the wind protection could be a little bit better, but you can still hear what's going on, and ultimately that's all that matters. And I never actually tested the wind rejection because I usually just do that in post, or I just don't care. So it passes. The audio's very good, I would say. So the next round of testing I want to do is image stabilization, and I want to give you 3 examples of different methods of stabilization. The first example is this Action 5 Pro. This is arguably one of the best implementations of just pure electronic stabilization. I think it's one of the best on the market. Personally, and I think there's a few other people that certainly hold that opinion. GoPro's right up there as well. Action cams, for whatever reason, do a really good job with electronic image stabilization. Now let's switch over to IBIS. And for our IBIS contender, we have the Lumix S9. Shocker there, right? I hold the opinion that Panasonic has one of the best IBIS systems for video out right now, and I know there's certainly other people who share that same feeling, same opinion. I'm trying to think of random shit to say just so I can stretch this out to about 30 seconds. The moral of the story, this is what just IBIS looks like when you're walking and talking. And then finally, the one that you're actually waiting for, the Canon V1. This is using optical image stabilization. That means there's an element inside of the lens that's trying to compensate for my up and downs, my jitters, all that sort of thing. But I want to point out that you'll see a very similar artifacting with optical image stabilization that you will with IBIS. If you go back and you look down here in the corners, you'll probably see really slight warping. And that's just kind of a side effect of the stabilization process at these wider angles. It's just noticeable. I think I may have worded that in a funky way. The warping you see in the corners is a side effect of the image stabilization process, and that warping and those artifacts become a bit more noticeable when you have a wide-angle lens. I think that might be a little bit more clear. Also, it kind of seems like the V1 has slightly more dynamic range than the S9. I gotta get this back to the computer to check that. If I hold the camera stationary but try to purposely introduce some wiggle and wobble, if you look into the corners, you should be able to see a bit better of a representation of that warping I was talking about. And now let's check the stabilization performance in photos. I wanted to take a picture of something that was well lit and had a lot of sharp edges on it, so this Folgers can worked out pretty good. We're starting out at 1/40. It's also worth mentioning I'm zoomed all the way in, hand holding. I think this is approximately 50 mil equivalent. So 1/40 I expected to do pretty good, so we're just going to move on from there. We got 1/30, still looks pretty good. 1/25, we're starting to get some motion blur. 1/20, even more motion blur. 1/15, even more. 1/13, it kind of cleaned up a bit. I must have been a little more stable on this one. 1/10, if you're holding it steady enough, it can work. 1/8, I mean, it's not the worst. 1/6, and then you got 1/5. For a point of comparison, here is an unstabilized camera. This is a Panasonic Lumix GM1. We're starting out at 1/80 because, again, we're unstabilized. We do have to be a little bit higher. We can see that that is perfectly sharp. Going down to a 60th, I actually expected that to be sharper. Going down to a 50th, you can see that definitely we're getting some blur. A 40th, and remember the V1 was perfectly fine at 1/40. Going down to a 30th, quite a bit more motion blur, 1/25, and I don't think I went much further than this just because you just can't shoot this low on an unstabilized system. It's safe to say that the stabilization performance I'm getting out of the V1 is acceptable, but maybe just like a notch above acceptable. It's definitely not the best stabilization I've seen in a camera system. And I think that's probably all I have to say about that. Moving on to a couple easy ones. Let's talk about automatic subject detection. And if you're not familiar what that is, basically you can tell the camera what you're going to be pointing it at, and then it should just pick that thing up, and then autofocus accordingly. If I go into the quick menu on the camera, I have to choose from auto, people, animals, or none. Safe to say it's kind of limited in scope. I've left it in auto basically since I ran through the menu the first system and set everything up, and it's been pretty good. It's picked up my dog and it's picked up me, so the two settings that I have, it works decent, and it can differentiate between the two in the auto settings. So not much more to say about the automatic subject detection other than it exists, it's limited in scope, and it works fairly decently. Alright, the next one I should probably get an external mic for.
Hello, testing. Is this thing on? The next thing is I need my camera to be able to fit in my pocket. If it's not small enough that I don't want to carry it, then I end up in a situation with like I am with the S9. I just don't carry it anywhere. I don't take it places. I don't do camera things with the camera. It's gotta be pocketable. So, is it hoodie pocketable? The answer is yeah, super hoodie pocketable. Super convenient to deploy, shut down after you're done, put it in there, boom. Fits in the hoodie pocket. Does it fit in the regular pocket? Let's find out. Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch, but I mean, if you wanted to, I don't see why you couldn't. I'm going to call that a pass. And if it fits in that pocket, it's probably safe to say it's going to fit in the cargo pocket just fine. Actually, I could probably lay that in there flat. It's kind of an inconvenience. Doesn't feel real comfortable, but again, it fits, unlike the S9. And of course, the deployment speed is way faster than the S9 too. Pull it out one hand, boom, we're on. We're ready to go. Okay, so this one doesn't really apply to everybody. I'm a vest guy in the winter. I like wearing a hoodie all year and then just throwing on an insulative vest over top of that. Insulative? Is that a word? Insulating would probably be the better choice there, but I'm stupid, so insulative it is.
Quick microphone adjustment. My vest has pockets right here. They're deep, they're convenient. Does it fit in there? Answer is, yeah, that works great. Thumbs up. Very pocketable. Oh, that's interesting. It seems like the camera just turned on in my pocket. Oh, I just learned a thing. I'm not sure if I like that or not. I might look to see if I can turn that off. So the camera is now off, right? This little impromptu. Holy shit, I learned a thing. If you push the media review button right here on the side, hopefully that's focusing, you'll see the light start blinking and then the screen turn on. I can now review my footage without actually having to turn the camera on and have the lens extend. And if I want to take a photo with it, I don't have to push the power button here at the top. I can just half press the shutter, the lens comes out, and it's on, and I could take photos with it. I guess the button's recessed slightly. Well, not really. I guess it kind of protrudes. The moral of the story is, I just accidentally hit it, pulling it out of my pocket. Is that going to be a problem?
I don't know. The on and off button is nice and small and it's recessed. I haven't hit that yet. I think I've owned it for about a week now. I've been testing this for a while. Yeah, I don't think there's much more to say about that. You hit that button and it turns on. For better or worse. We're past winter and it's too damn hot to have this thing on. Fits in pocket? Pass. Automatic subject detection? Pass, I guess, even though it's kind of limited. It's good enough. Now let's dive into lens. This isn't a real complicated section, but there are a few things that I need to hit. I need my camera to be close focusing. And ideally, it would have a sort of product showcase mode where I can hold something up to the lens and it just focuses like that. It's constantly looking for my face, but it ignores my face when something gets close. I'm using something really small, such as a pen here, to illustrate a point, and you can see that this mode absolutely exists, and I'd go as far as to say it does a pretty damn good job. And as far as how close you can get to the lens, well, that's pretty damn close. I mean, the only thing that really matters is that you can fill the entire frame with whatever it is that you're trying to show the camera, and I believe we're achieving that. I'd say it's about, I don't know, 3-4 inches away from the lens. That's kind of the minimum focus distance. God, that just works so good. It's too bad the showcase mode is kind of shit. So I think I've made it clear probably several times at this point. I like to shoot in shutter priority. That's TV on Canon. Now, if I go into the quick menu and I go to the AF settings, well, there's no option for a product showcase. No. If I want that mode, I have to go over here to the mode dial, and I have to, going the wrong way, I have to go to scene selection, and then within the quick menu, I know this is absolute, hold on. Safe to say this is a bit better, right? So in shutter priority, if I open up the quick menu, and I go over to autofocus, is this it? No, this is subject tracking. Autofocus. Oh, AF is up here. I'm stupid. I can choose the zone, but there's no option to choose product showcase AF. It really seems like it should be in this menu right here, but it's not. I have to go over to scene, which you'll see everything kind of shifts. The color profile changes. It's a total different scene. If I go into quick settings now, everything's slightly different, and now I can go from smooth skin movie for close-up demos, or movie IS mode. Movie for close-up demos is the one that I want. Bam! Focus. On me. On the camera. On me. On the camera. It's working. That's the right mode. But here's the main issue I have with this. It's completely auto. There's no control. There's no manual control in this mode. The camera just does what it wants. Look at the shutter speed right here. It's 1/30. This is the aperture. This is the shutter speed. Bigger number here, less light. Bigger number here, less light. Either way, no manual control here. So if I take this camera and I shove it into a light, watch what happens to the aperture. The aperture closes off before the shutter speed increases. We finally reached the max aperture of this lens, and it begrudgingly went up to 1/60. I like to shoot 30 FPS at 1/60. That's the ideal motion blur for Maya. I think that's actually like an industry standard thing. Either way, I like to shoot 1/60 at 30, and I like to shoot 1/100 at 60. Those are my preferences. I can't choose my preferences because everything is auto. The thing at 1/30 is it creates this blur effect. You see this? Look at this. Look at this blurring that's happening with my hand. You need it to be just a little slower. I could go off on a really long rant about this, but I'm gonna leave it right there. Product showcase exists, but it's really annoying to use, and it seems like it's kind of needlessly difficult. Canon cripple hammer? Maybe. I don't know. Simple oversight? Stupidity? Okay, I'm done ranting about this. Essentially, showcase mode, or whatever they're calling it, is just dead to me because I can't dial in manual settings. Since we're kind of already talking about the lens, we might as well, move a little further into the lens and talk a bit more general about it. Sharpness, I'm not going to get charts out. I don't give a shit about sharps. How does it look to the eye? You know what I mean? If I put it on a high-resolution screen, how does it look? And it's good enough. The images look good enough. The lens is perfectly sharp for this application. There are people that are complaining about this only being an f2.8 lens at its widest. Personally, I support that decision. I like background blur as a tool, but I find it's overused a lot. I think I may have already talked about this. I don't know. This video's been going on for weeks, or not weeks, days. It's been going on for days at this point. I forget what I've talked about and what I haven't. I don't like the overuse of background blur. So this right here is probably f2.8. Yeah, this is f2.8. I'm approximately 2.5, 3 feet away from the lens.
I'm perfectly in focus right now, but the background might have just a touch of blur. And if I wanted to go in, if I wanted a little bit more blur, I could zoom the lens in, which decreases the aperture, unfortunately, but because the way physics go, it should get just a little bit more background blur behind me. But either way, I don't care, because I don't generally like it for this kind of dynamic shooting tool that is a pocket point and shoot type camera. If this was a photo camera, I might be a little bit more concerned about that. I'd love it to be like an f1.8 or something like that. I think that'd be really cool. But for video, with the aperture being kind of closed off at f2.8, you just kind of don't have to worry about the autofocus because it doesn't have to work as hard. You might see it breathe a little bit, but it's fine. Effectively, what that means is in low light situations, you're probably going to get a little bit more grain. But in the rest of the situations, like pretty much like 99% of the other times you're using the camera, what you're pointing the damn thing at is going to be in focus. And that's what matters. You know, if it's trying to focus here and I'm trying to show something to the camera right here, right? Like it's focusing on my face right now. You can see the little box, right? If I hold something up, we've all seen that video of somebody trying to show the camera something, and because they're using, you know, the fancy full frame camera with the fast lenses, they'll hold something up and you can't see it at all because it's completely blurred, and then they do this thing where they have to like hold their hand out to block the face detect and like hold the camera in front of it. Wow, that's some sticky ass face detect. You know what I mean? Like, we've all seen that at this point. If you're at the point where you're considering this camera, you've watched enough YouTube to know that amateurs with fast lenses and big sensors typically results in, I'm going off on a rant again, it can result in subpar results and it becomes distracting to the viewer. I like f2.8 because I can hold the camera here and you can still see what's going on. I can hold this tube of toothpaste and you can still read the brand even if it's not perfectly in focus. I can hold up this camp fuel. Look at my camp fuel! And you can still see what's going on. The camera appears to have gone into standby. It's unfortunate. There we go. I literally have a section on this list called aperture not too wide, and it passes that. Next thing I got on here is wide angle zoom lens with silent zoom. We kind of got that here, right? This is really wide. This is damn near as wide as the, where is it? Right here. The Action 5 Pro. Like, it's damn near as wide. Like, I'm holding this back at about 18 inches, and this is a pretty good upper torso shot. And then if you do want to zoom in, you can. You got like 50 mil equivalent here on the long end. You could damn near use this camera for like real estate photography. It's pretty damn wide. So it gets the wide angle, but silent zoom? No. This is why I'm still screen recording. I'm going to hold the microphone next to the lens. It's definitely not silent. It's relatively quick, which I guess is a good thing. Now let's start recording and see what that does. All right, now I'm recording, and if I hit the zoom, it goes incredibly slow. It's much quieter, but it goes incredibly slowly. I went through the settings, and I didn't see an option to speed that up and override the speed. You know, it's like, it's quieter. Is that going to pick up on video? I'm not sure. We'll test that in a second, but it's almost not usable. It makes it so you can't do dramatic zoom-ins. You know, that's just not something you have to worry about on a manual lens. And when you're recording, that it's so slow that it's almost not even worth doing. Or it's worth, you know, stopping the recording, zooming, and then restarting the recording. Like, I wish there was an option to just zoom in at full speed and have the sound. That being said, let's swap over to the camera and let's actually check the sound. I'm going to zoom in on that, and I'm going to be quiet, and let's just have a listen. And now we check the results. You can still hear it zooming. It's still there. It's not as loud, but it's still there, and it's so slow that I stand by what I said, and it's damn near not even worth zooming. That's bad. So for this wide-angle zoom lens with silent zoom, I'm going to give that a fail. The only thing that it has is that it's wide angle. It's like it's almost not even worth using.
fail. Next one's gonna be pretty quick and easy. I wanna see how long it takes to transfer photos from the camera to my phone using Wi-Fi and comparing that against the cable. I'm more of a cable guy. From what I understand after reading the manual, this is only USB 2, but it could also be only 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi too, so this is why we run the tests. And the plan is to record just a single 1-minute clip, 4K 30, at the standard bitrate. And we're gonna use the same clip for both tests. And now I get to stand here for the next 45 seconds right now. Alright, this should be just as simple as going to the Canon Connect app, going to Images on Camera. It should automatically search for the Wi-Fi network. Should be as simple as joining, waiting a few seconds, and then going into the images. This is taking quite a while. It's actually mildly concerning how long it's taking. Nope, there we go. And oh, there's our 4K clip. Select. Boom, bang. How do we download it? Info? I selected it. Now what do I do? Press and hold? How do I download the clip? Oh, I can click import. Okay, so import, allow full access. No, I don't want you to give me reduced. Movie save quality compressed. No, I don't want you to do that. Delete location information. Okay, why are these... I think I've been spoiled by DJI. DJI's import process is so simple. Okay. How long is it going to take? I guess in the meantime, I have... Oh, yeah, I hit the wrong one. I guess in the meantime, I should check to see what frequency this uses. According to the spec sheet, it only supports 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi at a maximum link speed of 72 megabits per second. That is some old-ass shit. What's 72 divided by 8? Yeah, that's the world we live in right now. You have this fancy computer on your wrist that can't even do basic math. Look at how little this bar has moved. It's taking so long. I could probably go do that math problem, like, by hand using long division, if I remembered how to do it. What's 72 divided by 8? 9. Holy shit! Best case scenario, this is transferring at 9 megabytes per second. Not megabits, megabytes per second. This is probably like a, I don't know, a couple hundred, like it's hard to guess, right? It's probably like a couple hundred megabytes worth of data, and it's transferring at 9 megabytes per second. This is horrible! Just keep waiting, just keep waiting. My ADHD is not happy right now. I need dopamine. Somebody give me one of those games that you flick things and you hear sounds like ping, 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 ping. We're not even halfway. Not even halfway. It's 1 fucking minute of video. 1 minute. I have the latest and greatest phone. I have the latest and greatest camera. Why am I being transported back to 2007? Actually, when did this come out? I have time to research that. What year was 802.11n 72 megabits per second released to the public as a Wi-Fi standard? Could have worded that better, but fuck it. I fucking nailed it! 2007! Draft N started releasing to the public in 2007! Fucking 2007! This camera's been recording for 8 minutes now, so I think I've been transferring for like 5. For 1 minute of 4K video. 1 minute! Yay, I think we're finally 3/4 of the way there! Only another 2 minutes to go! Oh shit, it happened, it's done! Woo! Oh my gosh, I'm excited. There it is! There it is! Look at that! Now let's transfer via cable. You just plug it in, it shows up in the photo app. Oh, it still says imported already. I guess I need to delete that. Alrighty, USB 2, do yo thing. When was USB 2.0 480 megabit per second released to the public? No, you dumb text-to-speech. I said 480. Although probably not. I'm kind of dumb. All right, we're putting 2007 Wi-Fi technology against approximately early 2000, like even older. It says early 2000s. It wasn't very specific, but either way, Whoa, we're done. Holy shit, it's done. I barely had time to research and I didn't even get good... It's just done. That's how utterly fucking atrocious the Wi-Fi is. This old-ass 20-plus-year-old standard just kicked the shit out of the Wi-Fi. That was absolutely a roller coaster of emotion. And I'm coming down off the high, and I'm kind of just depressed now. According to ChatGPT, the theoretical maximum of USB 2 is 480 megabits per second, 60 megabytes per second. I knew that. Real-world transfer rate typically between 20 and 35 megabytes per second. That lines up with my experience, so I would trust that. And then draft N, 72 megabits per second. The theoretical maximum is 9 megabytes per second. So either way, we're already at a deficit compared to USB. Real-world throughput of 4 to 6 megabytes, which also lines up with my experience, almost 15, 20 years ago. And here are the results. Wi-Fi took 8.5 minutes and transferred at 1.8 megabytes per second on average. It was a 910 megabyte file. So you just take the time, you divide it by the size of the file, and you get your average rate. USB 2.0 took 39 seconds. Average rate of 23 megabytes per second. What the fuck? That shit right there is literally the definition of a manufacturer just checking a box off on a spec sheet. That is, as far as Wi-Fi transfer goes, unacceptable. I'd like to see it be USB 3.0 as well, but I mean, I can live with 2.0. This is a creator camera. It's marketed as a creator camera. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to rely on the Wi-Fi connection to transfer shit to their phone. That is fucking horrible. I can't overstate that. This is worse than the results I got on the charging tests and all the power. Like, this is 8.5 minutes to transfer 1 minute of 4K 30. It's less than a gigabyte. It's close to a gigabyte, but it's less than a gigabyte of data. Fuck. I feel like I should take a second and sort of quantify why this is so ridiculous. We're going to compare it again to the DJI Action 5. So I've just turned my bitrate all the way up. We're going to do 4K 60 FPS. I'm just going to let this run for a minute. I think the bitrate might be slightly lower on this than the V1, so I expect it to be less than a gigabyte, although I could be wrong. I don't usually pay attention to that sort of stuff. We're going to transfer it to my phone. We're going to see how long it takes, and we're going to do the math and extrapolate what the average transfer rate over Wi-Fi is. 9:10. All right, there's a minute. You open up the DJI Mimo app. It just immediately starts searching. It asks you can't see any of that. It asks you if you want to connect to the camera that's nearby. You pretty much just hit connect. It does take a little bit to connect, but once it does, there you go. There's our file. Can I get data off of this real quick? Okay, go away. Go away. Information. So we are transferring a 741 megabyte file. So this is a little bit smaller, but I think this will still be a valid test. Select and download. We're transferring at 85 megabytes per second. And in the time it took me to say that, it's already fucking done. I don't even think I need to do the math on that. How long did that take? 5, 6 seconds to transfer a file that was like 80% the size? The DJI Action 5 on Wi-Fi took 10 seconds and transferred at 74 megabytes per second. Multiple times what the V1 could do over a cable. And just comparing, fucking speechless right now. Comparing Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi? What's that difference? The Action 5 transferred its footage to my phone 41 times faster than the V1 could transfer its footage to my phone via Wi-Fi. That is... Well, I think I've made my point at this point. That's completely fucking absurd. This is a brand new camera. And again, This is Canon not slapping you in the face, but sucker punching you and pissing on your lifeless body. Unacceptable. And just to be safe, if you think I'm bullshitting you, here is the manual for the V1. Here are their specifications. 802.11n is the best they support at 2.5 gigahertz. 75 megabit is the max theoretical transfer rate. So even if we account for the maximum theoretical possible of 9 megabits per second under ideal laboratory conditions, 74 divided by 9, the Osmo Action 5 is transferring its data to the phone 8.2 times faster, giving the V1 an unrealistic edge on the math. What the fuck? $900 for this camera, and you get 2007 era technology. Where's my grass? Where's my grass? Oh yeah, touch the grass. Touch the grass. It's okay. It's okay. I always kind of chuckle inside when I do stuff like that because somebody will put in the comments, "You need medication!" It's like, I'm just trying to convey my passion here, right? I'm not going to lose sleep over this. It's a fucking Wi-Fi transfer speed, you know what I mean? I can just pop the SD card out. I got a USB 3.0 card reader right here. I can transfer it literally faster speeds than what I can do over Wi-Fi on the Action 5. But people still get, like, I don't know, they think I need help or something. Just chill, okay? I'm just playing it up for the camera. It's fucking absurd. Don't get me wrong. But, like, I'm not going to lose any sleep about it. Just don't worry about it. It's fine. And with that, let's continue on.
The last major thing I want to talk about is 1080p versus 4K recording, and I want to go a little bit more into depth on those. But there's two things that I need to kind of prime you on before we get to that. And the first one is downscaling artifacts. So I want you to look at my receding ass hairline. You see how there's kind of a shimmer in the recording because I'm capturing via HDMI? This is sort of a low resolution mode that the camera does to save battery. If I hit the recording button, you'll notice that shimmer almost completely goes away. And then if I hit the record button again, that shimmer sort of, bear with me, everything's kind of reversed, that shimmer starts to come back a little bit. And then if I hit the record button again, it disappears. And if I point it at my sweatshirt, you can see there's some artifacting right here. This specific type of artifacting, you really see it now, that's called moire. Now, if I I'm not going to be able to capture this changeover as easily as I'd... Okay, maybe if I make the camera stationary. Right there, you can see a ton of moire, and then as soon as I hit record, the moire almost completely disappears. And I moved, I shouldn't have moved. If I stop recording, you can see that the moire starts to come back. There's a bit of moire right here. Hit record, and it goes away. Now, I don't want to get into a bunch of technical detail on this because, frankly, I don't think I'm qualified enough to teach you the technical detail here. I might just confuse you. Gerald Undone has done some pretty in-depth testing on how this works and different downscaling techniques and all that sort of thing. Basically, what happens is if the processor isn't reading the entire sensor as a whole and then just downscaling it, I don't want to get too complicated here, but basically you end up with that artifacting. Now, there are other methods to downsampling that kind of, well, you have line skipping, it doesn't matter. Either way, there are other methods, they don't look as good, and you end up with artifacting like that. I've been using this camera now for about a week, and I've filmed a lot of stuff with it, and thankfully I haven't noticed a lot of moire. You're still going to get some just because if you look really close at my sweatshirt, you can see that there's a bunch of lines in it. Those are the threads. That thread line is what's causing the moire. There's sort of an alignment occurring between the pixels on the sensor and the thread on my shirt. And it went into standby mode again. So it's technically reading the full sensor right now, but it's not really reading the full sensor right now. If you want more information on how all that works, do some searching around for line skipping versus oversampling versus pixel binning, I think is another one. That's what you're seeing right now. And then when I hit the record button and the image cleans up, now we're doing a proper oversample of the whole sensor. Probably. There isn't a lot of data around that, but I haven't seen a lot of artifacting personally, and I've been shooting a lot of video with this. So overall, the upscaling techniques, the downscaling, oversampling? Again, I know what it is in essence. I don't know all the technical details, so I don't want to mislead you. The way the processor handles taking the full sensor and creating a lower resolution video file from all that data seems to be pretty good. I'm explaining all this to you because that kind of thing can be important, and that's why you want to, when you're watching a camera review, you want to see people use a lot of different resolutions and frame rate combinations just so you can kind of gauge how it's going to perform, because just because it looks good at 4K does not mean it's going to look good at 1080, for example. 1080p could look atrocious compared to 4K on some cameras if they don't do proper downscaling. That's probably enough on that. Now I want to talk about bitrate, but I'm not going to explain that to you because there's already a video on YouTube that does a way better job. There's a guy named Tom Scott who did a video a couple years back called Why Snow and Confetti Ruin YouTube Video Quality, and it's essentially a video that's 4 minutes or so long, and it explains video compression in a pretty intuitive way.
Now it's all starting to fall apart. The more stuff there is moving in the frame, more confetti, there we go, the more spread out those 200 kilobits have to be.
No matter what camera you buy, if you're working with video, that is an excellent video to watch and will definitely help you understand one of the fundamental aspects of shooting and recording video, which is compression. So now let's move on to the final thing, 4K and 1080p testing. Now that you know what to look for, I'm back outside where there's a ton of micro detail. We're going to be kind of just moving around, slowly panning the camera, and we're going to go through all the frame rates, all of the bit rates, and all of the resolutions. It's going to be tedious, but if we're doing thorough testing, it's got to be done. This is 1080p, 30 FPS. Light bitrate. And now we've switched over to the standard bitrate for 1080p 30 FPS. And it's also worth mentioning that I have that was probably pretty loud, I bumped a leaf. I have no intentions of doing any testing on 24 FPS. Just because if it looks good at 30, you'll have even more data to work with at 24, because as we checked, 1080p 60 FPS light. As we checked earlier, when we were doing the battery testing, when we checked the bit rates, although I probably should have done it on this section, the 24 FPS bit rate is about the same, well, exactly the same as the 30 FPS bit rate. 1080p 60 FPS standard bit rate. I probably should change the shutter speed because we're 1/60 right now. I'll do that on the next one. Or just for the sake of good science, I could shut it off and change it to 1/100 right now. Is there any appreciable difference if you're not pixel peeping? Guess we're gonna find out. 4K, 30 FPS, light bit rate. Drop the shutter speed down to 1/60 just because we've dropped the frame rate down. There is a hell of a lot of turkeys going off behind me. I'm wondering if that's gonna pick up on the mic. And now we're running 4K, 30 FPS, standard bit rate. I'm interested to know if me hand-holding it like this is going to have a negative impact on the test results. 4K 60, light bitrate. And what I mean by that is hand-holding it like this and being relatively close to the camera creates a bit of blur in the background. And that blur tends to have the effect of obfuscating the compression artifacting. 4K 60, standard bitrate. And if it sounds like I'm slightly out of breath, it's because I am. I'm a fat guy, and I just had to kind of run back to my desk and figure out why the hell 4K 60 just wasn't an option anymore. And it was infuriating. Alright, that's enough testing. Lucky for you, or perhaps maybe not so lucky for you, I recorded the entire troubleshooting, step by step. So here you go. Here's why my camera just decided to not give me 4K 60 as an option. Hey, I lied to you. We're going to wrap up the 4K 1080 bitrate, all that stuff real quick. So, after running those tests, looking at everything side by side, I think it's safe to say that if you're running 24 FPS or 30 FPS, you're going to want to go with the standard bitrate. If you go with light, you're going to get noticeable compression artifacting, although I will say it's worse at 1080. I also think the color kind of shifts at 1080 a little bit more than it does at 4K. So, if you're running if you're running 60 FPS at both 1080 and 4K, I think you can get away with the light bit rate.
I've been running the light quite a bit. I did some testing like a couple days ago and came up with the same result. So come up with the same result twice in 2 different tests. So that's got to mean something, right? So yeah, for me, going forward, 30 FPS, I'm using the standard bitrate. 60 FPS, I'm going to be using the light bitrate. Doesn't seem to be a battery hit, or at least a noticeable one, so there's that. Also, the oversampling, it seems to be pretty good. I am happy with the results that I'm getting out of this camera in the final, recording. So, thumbs up there. There's no sense going into it any deeper than that.
Okay, now I'm not even joking at this point. This is actually infuriating. I was back in the woods and I was getting ready to do 4K 60 and it's just not there. 4K 60 is not showing up. Now my first instinct was, okay, you probably need a faster SD card. Well, I put a faster SD card in it and it's not there. If I change over to aperture priority, same sort of deal. 4K 60 is no longer there. If I go to manual, same thing. It's not there. If I go to scene for whatever reason, and I go, look at that, 4K 60 does appear. And I have absolutely no indication as to why. Like, why aren't these options, the light and the standard, like, why are these two not just grayed out, and then when I, select them, it gives me a little info, like, hey, you have this setting on, or this is the reason why 4K 60 is not available. Why is it available in scene mode and not shutter priority or manual? Like, what? Can we record using, okay, let's go with the highest bit rate and let's hit the record button. It says it's recording. Are we recording? All right, let's go to review. And yeah, it looks to be play. Yeah, it's playing back. So we have successfully recorded 4K 60 FPS at the highest bit rate it can go. So it's not an SD card problem. This is a menu problem. And I haven't got the slightest clue how to fix this. It's been working fine for days. And just all of a sudden, nothing. Am I going to have to factory reset my camera? Like, I do not want to I just don't want to do that. Like, I've got this thing pretty damn dialed in at this point. If I have to factory reset the camera, oh, that's going to suck. I don't know. Let's just pull the battery and see what that does for a second. I legitimately don't know what else to do. You don't think Canon's getting pissy about the aftermarket battery, do you? Oh, that would be such a Canon thing to do. I'm pretty sure I've recorded 4K 60 on these, though. Go ahead and check it. Nope, pulling the battery did nothing. Okay. I'll throw the stock Canon battery back in just to see. But we just recorded 4K 60 in scene mode using the aftermarket battery, so this doesn't make any sense. Okay, quick mode. Nope. Still not there. Oh, I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to change. We're on whole area AF. I don't know, let's change it to spot. I don't know why that would matter, but clearly there's a setting somewhere that's been changed. Well, that wasn't it. Okay, let's go to subject detect. Let's turn automatic subject detection off. That takes a lot of processing power. Nope, still no 4K option. I'm going to have to go through God, this menu's so unintuitive. I'm going to have to go through all of these settings. It wouldn't be ND. That doesn't make any sense. Why would ND affect... It wouldn't. That doesn't make any sense. This menu's killing me right now. You'd think to go from over there to, this menu right here that you would just push the arrow key. Nope, that adjusts the setting. You have to scroll this way, I think. Movie Digital IS. Oh, I had digital... Oh, okay, so I had digital stabilization on. I don't want digital on. I must have accidentally turned that on. Surely, enabling digital is... Wow! Turning on digital stabilization removes 4K 60 as an option? Are you shitting me? No. That's not even that much of a crop. I mean, I know I just seen it, but I can't believe it. Wow. Look at that. There it is. 4K 60. I just don't have words for that. That's fucking stupid. I mean, I have no intentions of ever using the digital stabilization, but still, it takes 4K 60 away from you as an option, even if you select the first level of digital stabilization. Wow, that's so fucking stupid. All right, well, that's dumb. And yet again, this is the kind of shit that they don't talk about on the fancy fucking we do this for a living camera review channels.
Last thing I want to do is a real world test. I'm going to do a camping sequence. I'm going to do it vlog style. I've got a bit of a problem though. You see, I want to do it right here, but there's all these damn trees in the way. There's brush, there's shit all over the floor. Lucky for me, I know a guy who can make pretty short work of this. The reason I want to do it here is because there's this broken tile that has slowly eroded over the years. It's just so damn tranquil having running water next to you. Having a tent set up right here next to that running water, oh man, that's just a recipe for a good night's sleep. Although having the road this close, that's certainly a trade-off. That's certainly a trade-off. Also, I have no intentions of making you guess what my setup is. I'm using the DJI Mic Mini just because I feel like that's a great pairing with this. I'll probably use it in this configuration quite a bit. We're running 4K 30 FPS, 1/60 shutter speed, using the standard bitrate, and that's how I'm going to shoot the entirety of the sequence. No playing around. I want this to be best case scenario. I want this to perform as good as it possibly can. Running water is just so damn peaceful. Occasionally I'll just hang out here and just listen to it. Man, I spent so many freaking hours out here today clearing this spot out. So excited to break it in. But no, there's a damn storm intensifying over the lake. It's gonna be a shit show tonight. Man, I was getting into it. I even built this sexy little bridge. Got myself a nice easy walking path. Come on in. And it is damn near perfectly smooth. Not level, but perfectly smooth across the whole way. It's on a bit of a slope still. And there's nothing wrong with that because I have chronic acid reflux problems, so sleeping on a bit of a slope is a good thing for me. Now I have a problem because there's not going to be any nice days in the forecast anytime soon, and I can't film my camping sequence. I guess this is a problem for future me. Screw that guy. As I was waking up this morning, smelling the excellent smells of spring after a fresh thunderstorm, I had an epiphany. I know what we're gonna do. And I need to get this box down right here. Whoa! I had the idea to do this first thing in the morning when I woke up. I was super excited, but I came back here and there's all these trees here. The sun wasn't far enough up. It was still dark, so I had to wait a couple hours. But now we're here, and here's the plan. The plan is to drive this beat up slash down through this little running creek type thing. It's a drainage tile, but it kind of looks like a creek. And then we're gonna come over here, and I gotta try to navigate this technical section right here, and then I gotta try to come out, preferably this line right here. Anything less would just kind of be cheating, but that's too deep. So it's kind of dangerous, right? I mean, I don't want to get my truck wet and, you know, break something. But anyhow, I got to come up here, turn around, and then I got to go back. At the very least, this should be a good real-world test of the camera. At the very least, I'm going to have some fun. Situations like this are a really good example why having a closed-off aperture can be pretty beneficial. So this first section, I don't think will be too hard. I've got my customized tires on there, so it should just crawl right up out of here. Should be able to just slowly crawl right up on out of here under the bridge. Now this is where it starts getting a little technical. So this is pretty narrow, but the truck might snake through all this. I was actually anticipating having to wall ride through most of this. Looks like it's gonna get kind of tight down here. Oh, we hit a wall. This up here where it gets tight is going to be kind of challenging. Ooh, it's tightening up. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. This is just sand and I don't want to dig down, but it looks like that's what I'm doing. Oh, we're good. We're going. We're going. Rock it up. We got both tires up on the bank. Should be as simple as just gently riding her through. Victory is so close. I can taste it. I need the right side tires to enter the deep hole. Oh, that right tire's floating. Look at that. Ooh. I'm gonna have to do some turning around here without digging a hole. Careful. Careful. Oh geez. Oh geez. I think we're gonna make it. Oh geez. Don't spin. Please don't spin. Please don't spin. Please don't spin. Yeah, there we go. Quick celebration that we've reached a halfway point. Yeah. All right. Let's go back in. I'm thinking we go in on kind of a wider angle. Oh, that's bad. That's not good. Shite. I seem to have gotten a little excited. I don't think I'm backing out of here. Maybe I can rock it. I'm not going to be able to rock that out. Oh no. I got a little too excited. Come on. Okay, maybe I can real carefully work it kind of on an angle. Oh no, the rear end's slipping. Could I use that to my advantage though? No, it's not wanting to slip any further. Okay. Well, if the front end goes in, it's not really the end of the world because all the electronics are in the back. Ah! Oh, geez. Come on. This is savable. I'm sure this is savable. Whether or not I have the skill to save it, that's another story. Okay, ooh. It takes a little bit to get it to engage in reverse. Ah! So close. Come on. This is it. Ah! Damn it, it sucked the rear end in. This is okay though, We're moving. As long as we're moving, it means we're not failing. So I just need to reset. I think we're in a position where I can retry my approach now. Yeah, all right, we're out. All right, I want this tire right here because that's the minimum requirement, and then this tire can be up on the bank. My original plan was to go wide. That didn't work because I didn't have enough precise control over it. This isn't geared for crawling. It's the hill that's getting me. All right, here's the approach. Ah, man. So the problem is I'm jamming up on my front left and I'm not getting enough grip on the front wheels to, oh, we did it. All right, we're wall riding. That was without a doubt the most technical bit. So I should just be able to, yeah, now we're back on flat ground. Should be nice and easy going all the way to the drain tile. Under the bridge. Hit that 16-point turn real quick. And back that sucker right down in there. Real carefully. Straddling that washout. I could have called that a success, but we're going to readjust. It's not like readjusting is going to be too complicated. I just kind of need to move that rear end a little bit. Maybe like there, and there we go. I don't know if that was fun to watch, but it was fun to do, other than the fact that we've apparently entered black fly season. Let's whip a couple victory donuts. Whoa, that was a weird thing. Guess we're not going up that way. My tire tread modification means there's too much traction now. I can't do a good donut. My stability, it's too strong. All right, well, that was fun. Moving on.
And now back to the boring ass shed to wrap things up. In the last few days of using the camera, there's a few things that I didn't cover that I really should. Yeah, there's the list right there. The first thing on that list that I should have mentioned that I didn't, I should have either mentioned it in the lens section or the microphone section, is if I unplug the DJI microphone and switch over to the internal microphone, it sounds pretty decent right now, even considering, you know, I'm words. Because the lens is fairly wide angle, you can hold the camera physically closer to you, which means it's going to sound a whole lot better than if I hold it all the way back there. So there's another benefit to having a really wide angle lens. The next thing is white balance. And for this, I need this light and I need another one. So what I've noticed is the white balance, or the auto white balance, tends to kind of go where it wants sometimes. It's not a big deal, but when you're changing from really warm to really cool, it tends to not adjust very quickly. So we'll set this one to 3000. And then we'll set this to like, I don't know, 7,000. I don't want to go too extreme. That's probably extreme enough. Shut off all these lights. All right, it's dark. I'm just being illuminated by basically a couple screens. First we go cool. Wow, that's blowing me out. Why is there we go. Okay. I don't know why it took so long for it to adjust the exposure, but it did. Maybe I should shut that one off too. I don't want there to be any excuse. I'll get right up in the lens and get personal with it. So here it is, kind of cool. You can see it's even shifted a little towards the cool side. And then if I go warm, I just look orange. It doesn't really shift. Maybe slowly, over time, but it's not really shifting. At least with any reasonable speed. Just for the sake of comparison, we'll switch over to the iPhone. You can see there's definitely a color difference between these two lights, but it's not very extreme. So, that's loud. Going cool. And now going warm. Going cool. Going warm. Now we're going to switch to the inanimate object test, because I find that faces are kind of a little tricky for cameras to do white balance on. Maybe that's my problem. Either way, here's cool. You can see that switches over pretty quickly and makes adjustments. And then we go warm. Look at how fast that's adjusting. And then we go back to cool. It adjusts real quick and it's reliable. Let's jump back over to the V1. That definitely has a yellow tinge to it still. It's like a pretty warm yellowish tinge. And now let's go cool. Still cool, still cool. Like, it's doing some adjustment. You can clearly see that it's doing some adjustment, but it doesn't adjust all the way. You know what I mean? It's like it's afraid to overshoot. So it just falls a little short. Right, like, I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm just saying that it's noticeable and it's worth mentioning. There have definitely been times where I've had to shut the camera off and turn it back on. The next thing is really weird. So I've already talked about this, but you see how the microphone just shut off? If I push the power button again, you can see that the microphone will turn back on. That's a feature with a lot of powered microphones. If I go down here and I push the menu button, the microphone shuts off. What the hell is that? If I get out of the menu, the microphone turns back on. I really shouldn't be resting the camera on the lens, but that's how we're going to do it. If I go over here into the menu, and let's say I want to, I don't know, go into audio settings and go to external microphone, it's off, right? So if I want to adjust the levels, I have to go into here, wait a few seconds, it turns on, and then it connects, and now I can adjust the settings. That's kind of irritating when you're trying to dial in your damn settings. And it confused me for a little while. I'd go into the menu system, and there's no levels. You literally can't make this shit up. I haven't had a problem with the microphone turning off and then not coming back on, but it did it in this clip right after complaining about its needlessly turning on and off. And there's no audio. I don't remember what I said. The microphone was off.
The strap locations. There's actually a place for a little strap ring right there on the left and on the right. They didn't cheap out. It's actually got dual-sided strap locations or hook points, so you can like dangle it around your neck and just have it, you know, sitting right here. That's great. It's worth mentioning. The next thing I want to mention, I actually forgot to write down on the list, but it's lens glare. I know if you go back and you look at the RC truck sequence, you'll notice when I had the camera pointed towards the row of pine trees, that's the direction the sun was coming in, if it hits the front element on the camera, it kind of washes everything out, and it's really easy to get that effect. It's like, it kills your contrast. You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of being extreme, right? But like, look at the glow around the light. It's going to be hard for me to kind of reproduce this right here, but either way, I noticed it was definitely a problem. Like, why did I turn that off? I need that on. There almost needs to be some kind of a hood for this. Like, most of the time, I don't run a hood, but I kind of feel like I need a hood for this. And now we switch back to the phone. The next thing I want to mention is screen glare. It is so hard to use this thing outside. Like, it reflects. Like, there's zero effort, from what I can tell, to make this anti-reflective. When you're outside, the sky, if it's at the right angle, which is a lot of the time, it just makes it hard to see the screen. And therefore, you know, hard to see your composition. All right, we got two things left to cover, and one of them's rolling shutter. Let's do it on this door right here. There's a lot of straight lines and panels and stuff. This is 4K, 30 FPS. That looks pretty good, actually. I haven't noticed any rolling shutter. Actually, the only reason I put rolling shutter on the board is because, wait a minute, I haven't talked about rolling shutter at any point. Like, I actually have not noticed any rolling shutter, so I expect it to do very well here. All right, let's swap over to 1080-30. 30, like, I'm not even seeing any jelly in the screen. Like, I'm sure there's some, but I'm not seeing any. It's a good sign. If it handles 30 good, it's going to handle 60 just fine. It's going to require a faster readout speed for 60. I had the audacity to change the resolution, and now the beginning of the clip has no fucking audio. Enough about that to say that definitively. I'm sure there's a scenario in which I'm wrong or something. Anyhow, 4K 60. We're using just kind of a crop of the sensor, so that should be fine. I'm not even going to go back and look at the results on that because, again, I haven't noticed any bad rolling shutter up until this point, so if I haven't noticed it, I don't really care. It's probably fine. And the last one's going to require probably switching over to either my iPad or my computer. The last thing is, I just want to give a couple real-world examples of AFC in photo mode, just because it's a pretty capable photo camera, in my opinion. So I have the AF locked onto the cock's head here, and you can see that it's just nailing focus every time. Now, he's not really moving. That's not a really good test, but every one of them was sharp. Like, this is zero effort, is what I'm getting at. I just put it on his head, and that was it. Same thing with this white hen here. You can see she's perfectly in focus right here. I'm just kind of tracking her around. I'm not really holding the shutter down. I'm just occasionally hitting the shutter button here. She's perfectly in focus there, perfectly in focus, perfectly in focus. There was some movement here, although it looks like the focus was fine. It just seems like the shutter speed was a little bit low, if that was to take an educated guess. The next one, perfectly in focus. The one right here is where I locked focus in, and you can see she was moving, and I'm not sure what's going on with the order here, but some of these photos got out of order. Either way, it's going to be kind of weird when I go through these, but I had the focus point right on her head. You can see she's in focus, in focus, in focus, in focus, in focus, and I believe that was in focus, but I think it was a shutter speed thing because, you know, they were all walking. And that's the end of it. Basically what I'm saying is the autofocus is pretty damn good. I don't want to give you bad data. I take that last one back. I checked the shutter speed. It was 1/400. That's plenty high enough. And at the speed that they were running, it should have continued to freeze motion. I would say that that last one was actually out of focus. But generally speaking, I've taken a lot of photos, a lot of which I'm not going to share with you, and it's worked pretty damn good. And now, finally, we're at the conclusion of, for me, a week and a half of testing, familiarization, and just nothing but cameras. Camera. I'm starting to get a little burnt out. I need a break. So let's run through the list of conclusions, and then we'll wrap this up. First requirement from me
It has to have at least a 1-inch sensor, and it needs to be somewhere between 20 and 30 megapixels. For me, I believe this is the sweet spot combination. It's about 22 megapixels as far as I remember, and it's basically a micro four thirds sensor. That for me is the sweet spot. That's a definite pass. Quick power up and mode switching definitely passes that. Thumbs up. It's quick. Built-in ND with auto control. It's present. And it's enough ND that I can be outside. It's partly cloudy right now, but I'm running 1/60th and I don't have to adjust any settings. It's just fine. It works. Definitely a pass there. It's got to have a mechanical shutter. I got to have a camera, a hybrid camera, that's got a mechanical shutter, and this does. It's not worth saying more than that. It's got to have a flip out screen. Check. That's a pass. Weather sealing. That's a fail. That is definitely a fail. But as we talked about in that section, I don't think you're really going to get that with this type of camera. It's just, I think that would be incredibly difficult to do. So I'm not going to, harp on it too much for that. Good low light. I would say definitely. Yeah, it's got pretty damn good low light. I'm perfectly satisfied with what what the capabilities of this cameras are. And fumbling my words, word salad. My God, I don't care. I'm leaving this in. It's the end of the video. If you made it this far, it is what it is. Low light, pass. Low light, good. Versatile mounting and placement. It passes that too. As we discussed in that section, it's got a nice girthy bottom, so you could set it down. It's well balanced. Would it be nice for, maybe like the vertical content creators to have a quarter 20 on one of the sides? Like I think they did the 50V or RV or whatever the hell camera they released with this. Yeah, I think that'd be convenient, but it's fine. I don't like how close the quarter 20 is to the battery door, but again, what do you do? It kind of just is what it is. Fast and reliable autofocus. Yeah, it's not a problem. It just works. And that's in video and photo mode. Thumbs up on the autofocus. Fast charging with removable battery. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that they failed that one. The only thing it's getting is a thumbs up for removable battery. This thing charges slow as hell, and it's a piss in the face. Yeah, it's Canon pissing in your face. It's not great. Very, very disappointed with the powering of the camera and all of the options associated. Again, I'm doing the word salad thing, but we're going through it. I'm very disappointed with the fact that there's no USB-C power delivery standard. The fact that I can't power the camera and charge the battery at the same time, like that's a problem. At this price range, that's a problem. This thing needs to charge in an hour, maybe a little more than that if you didn't want to go as crazy as DJI, but taking 2 hours to charge this tiny ass battery, like if that's a limitation with the battery, maybe it's time to redesign the battery. Maybe it's time for a new one. Just saying. This is a very expensive premium camera. The damn thing should charge quickly. Good microphone. Yeah, I'm going to give that a pass. It's nothing special, but compared to all the other cameras that I've had, the ZV-1F, ZV-1 Mark II, GoPro, not GoPro, I've had several GoPros, but it's better than the GoPros I've had, that's for sure. The DJI Pocket, that's the DJI Pocket 3 I had. This is definitely a better microphone than that. It has to have a mic jack and be compatible with the power trigger where you push the power button and turn the camera on. It does, it passes that, it's good enough. I don't like the fact that when you hit the menu button, it shuts off, but it's just one of the idiosyncrasies that you have to learn if you're going to use the camera. It's got to have continuous record time at max res frame rate of at least an hour. It passes that, I would say. Just barely, but it passes that. It's got to have good image stabilization. I would say it passes, just barely, but it passes. It's got to be able to fit in places, pockets, bags, all that sort of thing. It does. It's just small enough for that. If it was any bigger, I would say no, but it does. Automatic subject detection. As we talked about in that section, it's kind of limited in scope, but it does work, and it works good. Showcase mode. Even though it's here and it works good, it's a fail for me, just because I can't dial in manual settings. That's dumb. That's very dumb, and it feels very artificial. It's got to have a lens with a close focusing distance, so I can hold things up and it just kind of focuses on them, and it does. Aperture not too wide, as we discussed in that section as well. It's kind of a contentious thing, right? People want, especially the professional camera reviewers, they want real fast lenses and low apertures and lots of light hitting the sensor, and it's like, I understand why you want that, but also, when you're using it in dynamic shooting situations and you're hand holding it a lot and you're like holding it here and you're trying to show the camera, it's like, well, you shouldn't be using the camera. Well, that's how I want to use my camera. So if you got a problem with the way I use my camera, then fuck off. I like the fact that it has a closed off aperture at its fastest, so more shit's in focus. That's what I prefer. I like the fact that it's f2.8. If it was a photocentric camera, sure, I'd be on board with the as much light to the sensor as possible sort of ideology. Aperture not too wide? Pass. Wide-angle zoom lens with silent zoom. That is surely creating wind noise because I don't have the wind muff on the mini microphone action. DJI Mic Mini? Word salad again. I do a lot of word salad. This is what happens when I don't edit out the word salad. It's got a nice wide-angle zoom lens, but it is definitely not silent, and the fact that when you're recording, it zooms in real slow, and you can't change that setting to be just be like, yeah, I acknowledge if I run it fast that, you know, it's going to be loud and it's going to pick up on the recording. I would like that as an option, right? Especially if you're running external audio. There's no reason not to have the fast zoom. Fast media transfer to phone through cable and Wi-Fi. That is in all caps, hard fail. That is atrocious. 2007 era Wi-Fi, 802.11 draft N, 72 megabits per second. Best case scenario? That's a theoretical maximum. It's never going to achieve that. That's unusable. To me, that is unusable. Maybe to you it's not. Maybe you can just sit there and wait for 3 hours while you try to transfer a couple minutes of 4K video, but I can't. It's unusable to me. Does it have clean 4K footage? Other than the 4K 60 crop and the fact that you can't turn on electronic stabilization when you're running 4K 60, which was an annoyance that I encountered if you skipped to this point and missed that, I would say, yeah, it passes clean 4K. It's slightly oversampled from the main, from the entire coverage of the word salad again. Word salad. The 4K is good. And then the last one on here is the 1080. The 1080 is really good. There's no aliasing. There's no moire. It just looks good in 1080. I'm really happy with the resolutions and at the various frame rates. All the video shooting options, they're good enough for what this is. It's fine. Now this is where the true conclusion is. Am I going to hold on to this long term? And the answer is actually yes. There's some warts for sure. But ultimately, it's nothing that I can't work around, and this is the best sort of all-in-one hybrid package that I have come across in the last couple of years. I fully intend to main the Canon Powershot V1 for the next year. The last camera I did that with was the Fuji X100 VI. That was a fantastic camera, but you were limited by your by the fixed 35mm focal length, and the fact that the video autofocus sucked. Damn it, the sun's coming out and it's beginning to be a bit too harsh to be shooting out in this type of lighting. And it's like right overhead, so it's it's blacking out my face. Look at me, I'm cool now. Got my hat on backwards. And with that unnecessary interjection, I think we're done here. The Canon V1 is my new primary shooter, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Seems to be a pretty good piece of hardware, at least from my testing, over a week and a half of doing nothing but thinking about this camera. All right, I'm done rambling. This is the end of the video. I'm gonna go back to my desk, even though it's a super nice day, and I'm gonna dump probably 5 to 7 hours of raw video into a timeline, have existential crisis, probably followed by the urge to have a panic attack. This is a long-ass video, and I did not intend for it to become this. Hopefully this is helpful to some degree. Don't expect me to do this again with another camera anytime soon. Good luck on your purchasing endeavors. I don't know. It's fucking end.